How well do you know Lord Voldemort? What about his childhood? Does he have a child? Do you even know how to say his name? The reptilian who will not be named brought out the best and worst in all of Hogwarts, and we need to know more about the darkest soul in the Potterverse. We at The Binger have listed 15 long-lost and need-to-be-remembered facts about T.M. Riddle, the baddest wizard of them all. Robert Langdon from the Da Vinci Code would have had a field day with the name Lord Cornelius Fudge dared not utter. Why? The words "I am Lord Voldemort" is an anagram for his real name handle, Tom Marvolo Riddle. Thought that was only in the English version of the book? No. In the French version of the Chamber of Secrets novel, I am translates to je suis, and his original name is Tom Elvis Jesudor. Sounds like a Major League Baseball player's moniker. Straight from the story's architect herself, J.K. Rowling confirmed via Twitter that the last T in Voldemort is silent as per the French word mort standard pronunciation. En français, as in traditional Gaelic, mort means death, and volde means flight of death. How morbidly beautiful, like the man himself. Rowling does admit she's probably the only one who pronounces Voldemort's name that way. Fair enough. It's usually only the uber-handsome and physically gorgeous celebs who refer to themselves in the third person. So how could the noseless opposite of a heartthrob dare to do so? And why does he not have a nose? While it is never explicitly revealed, it is rumored to be what happened when he successfully split his soul. The process affects the hair, the skin, and in turn, the nose. Tom always had a profound admiration for the cold-bloodedness of serpents, and he eventually became what he admired, giving himself that affirming narcissistic edge. To give an alternative theory, we'd like to believe he cut it off himself to maximize his ability to intimidate. Or perhaps he just wanted to look more like Nagini. CGI removed it just wasn't a satisfying enough answer. After the 7 Horcruxes were destroyed, the Dark Lord became immortal, and Voldemort met his demise in the final battle in the Deathly Hallows Part 2 by way of Harry. His slow dissipation into the ashes floating upwards into the heavens has audiences everywhere wondering where lost souls of wizards go when they die. The mystery of death will only be answered after life, but we believe Voldy's spirit will hover around in limbo until the last of those he hurt are long gone and have forgiven him, making the hidden parts of his soul whole again. Then and only then he may enter the wizard afterlife, filled with Quidditch matches, winged horse races, and wizard chess. Voldemort's mother is a descendant of the one and only mysterious Salazar Slytherin, one of the original founders of the famed wizard school, along with Gordic Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, and Rowena Ravenclaw. He was a pure-blood wizard, and in wanting to protect his legacy, wanted only pure-blooded wizards to attend the school, ensuring a permanent tilting of power in their, and in turn, his direction. He also deemed Muggles unworthy of the ways of magic. His 3 co-founders disagreed, and so he exiled himself and created the Chamber of Secrets. In the chamber, he left a basilisk, a weapon of mass destruction of sorts, designed to purge Hogwarts of all Muggles and half-bloods, ensuring his vision for the institution would be imposed. He passed on in the 11th century, his namesake gracing the darkest of the 4 houses, House Slytherin. Yes, this sure sounds like Voldemort's ancestor, all right. In his diary, Tom wrote that he wanted to finish Salazar Slytherin's noble work. Growing up in an orphanage isn't easy, as you really have to fight to get the attention you need. Sometimes that includes talking to animals. In a flashback in the Half-Blood Prince book, Tom Riddle, at age 11, reveals to Dumbledore, "I can speak to snakes. I found out when we've been to the country on trips. They find me, they whisper to me. Is that normal for a wizard?" Well, a snake did nod to Harry in the Sorcerer's Stone, so it's not that weird. Perhaps the snake is the tempter to the dark arts. Some wizards follow them down that path, some don't. Tom Riddle has 2 self-imposed exiles to Albania. The first was from 1981 to 1994 when the Avracadabra spell rebounded off baby Harry Potter, ruining his physical body. His consciousness bounced around from animal to animal, living as a snake for a large part of that time. He was eventually able to possess the body of a lost Hogwarts professor, Quirinus Quirrell, to make his comeback. His second exile ran shorter, from 1992 to 94, which began after Dumbledore defeated him when he was in Quirinus's body. This time, he hid his 16-year-old likeness in his diary and was eventually released by Ginny Weasley, becoming more powerful than ever when she released him. He really paid the cost to be the boss. While there are many wizards like Arthur Weasley who have a total fascination with Muggles, Lord Voldemort has spared no expense in letting it be known throughout Hogwarts that he hates them. Why? Like so many who hate others, these others represent a part of himself he cannot accept. And that's the part of him that comes from his father, Tom Riddle Sr. Having been abandoned by his pops before his death and his mother Merope Gaunt having died shortly after it, he was left at Wolves Orphanage in London in 1926. The paternal rejection left a big hole in the poor boy's heart. That hole grew into something that craved to make himself the opposite of what he was by any means necessary. For Tommy Boy, this was tyrannical power by means of the Horcruxes. It's too bad the fractured boy never had a role model in those formative years to set him on the right path. He needed a mentorship from William Forrester or a hug from Dr. Sean Maguire. Tom Riddle Sr. was as unlucky as his son. When Merope fell in love with him, she drugged him with potions so he would reciprocate. He left her when she told him she was a witch, and she was pregnant at the time. And so when Voldemort grew up, he committed patricide in 1943 when he was only 16 years old. He did it at his father's manor where he was living with his parents in Little Hangleton, taking out his grandparents as well. He merged part of their souls into Marvolo Gout's ring. Marvolo was a descendant of Salazar Slytherin. This ring became Tom Riddle Jr.'s second Horcrux. Besides the fear of Harry Potter, who was a threat to all wizards, as Harry, as a young man, was inheriting Hogwarts while they were inheriting old age. Voldemort was indeed afraid of Dumbledore. The wise old owl saw Voldemort for the scared little boy he was right from the get-go, and an enemy who truly knows you is a formidable one. That, plus the fact that Dumbledore is a real virtuoso of a wizard. When these heavy-hitting wizards fought in the Order of the Phoenix, it was as epic as Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. hopes to be in their upcoming 8-round fight. When he was 15, Tom Riddle, a young student at Hogwarts, took the life of Myrtle Warren, aka Moaning Myrtle, in the girls' bathroom using a basilisk. A portion of her soul floated into his personal diary. She was the first Horcrux and the true beginning of his descent into dark power. Her ghost wails in the night in the halls of Hogwarts. The other 5, besides his father and grandparents, were the witch Hepzibah Smith, an unknown Muggle woman, an Albanian peasant, Lily and James Potter, and Bertha Jorkins, an employee of the Ministry of Magic, rounding out the 7 Horcruxes. Tom, being the snake charmer that he is, suckered Horace Slughorn into teaching him the dark arts, specifically about Horcruxes. Old Sluggy tampered with his own memory so Dumbledore wouldn't find out. He told the dangerous boy about what was in the restricted area of the library. Horace lived with this deep shame when he saw what became of his former favorite student, and revealed his dark secret to Harry in The Half-Blood Prince. Hogwarts historians would all contend that Voldemort is one of the most powerful wizards of all time. His ability to retain knowledge and aggression to which he pursued learning is nothing short of inspiring. He has mastered the art of legilimency, meaning he was basically a walking lie detector test, and always knowing the truth is a powerful asset. It's also intimidating having someone in front of you and feeling as though they were snooping around in your mind, seeing right through us. Only the most gifted fibbers, like Narcissa and Severus, were able to fly under his radar with their untruths undetected. When he pushes this ability to the maximum, like he did to Harry in the Order of the Phoenix, he can take over a person's mind. Imagine the damage you could do with that. He's like an evil Professor X. Lord Voldemort left Hogwarts in 1945 and for a short while worked in a dark magic shop called Borgin and Burke's. After putting Hepzibah Smith in the dirt for a gold cup and a gold locket, he walked the earth like Cain in Kung Fu, where he married himself to the dark arts at a deep level, and returned to Hogwarts completely transformed into his new persona, Lord Voldemort. Like Kylo Ren with his Knights of Ren, Voldemort created his own clan, the Death Eaters, in the 70s. Maybe this is what your parents mean when they say, "Hey, it was the 70s, man. It was a crazy time." Some joined out of a hunger for power, and many joined out of the fear of the intimidating join us or else aura that he had spent his whole life up to then cultivating. The apex of his sadism was the creation of the Inferi, a curse that created a slave class of his victims who live in a cave and whose sole purpose is to drown his live enemies in the dark lake. Imagine having to serve your murderer in the afterlife. Now that's evil. In the play Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, a theatrical extension of the Potterverse, cousins Voldemort and Bellatrix Lestrange had a child shortly before their deaths. Delphine grows up just like her pappy, in an orphanage, and becomes determined to continue the work of Salazar Slytherin. She declares Harry and Albus Potter her mortal enemies and learns the dark arts. Hey, at 71, he was able to father a child. That's his most impressive trick of all. Not all Potterheads agree that the Cursed Child is part of the official Harry Potter storyline, but J.K. Rowling did sign off on it, so... What did you think of Voldemort's backstory? Will you call him Voldemort from now on? What's your favorite Dark Lord moment in the Octology? Let us know in the comments below, and like and subscribe for more from the Binger. Up, up, and away we go on to the next video.